And welcome. It's a little overview for Unit 14, Level 2 BTEC. What I want to do is just do a little recap and review of what you need for the assignment for any of you that are nearly done but not quite sure if you've got everything. Right, first off, what we want to do is we want to have a look at the scenario. You being successful in your application to a local studio for the role of assistant engineer. However, before you're allowed to record bands, I've asked you to demonstrate your knowledge of planning a recording session. That's the key bit. It's the planning bit that we're after. So you're going to need to understand the equipment, understand the processes of what goes into doing a recording, and what the actual bits are, kind of behind the scenesy, if you were Mr. Producer doing the recording. So this is reflected in this next bit, so where it says you have been requested to take into consideration both the technical and organisational plan of the sessions. And then task 2 is you're required to comment on the relative health and safety issues encountered while recording a variety of sessions. First off, do yourself an introduction. For this assignment, I'm going to be covering blah blah blah. I would suggest do your introduction at the end when you know what you've talked about all the way through the assignment. First off, you need to do an introduction to 4 bits of kit. So the main 4 bits of kit in order, just as a little recap, are microphones for capturing your sound source. Then we would have a mixing desk or an audio interface. This allows us to manipulate the signal and to get it into the next bit of a kit, which will be a recording device. And finally, the last bit of equipment, we need to be able to hear back what we're doing, so that would be studio monitors or headphones. So that's covered the overview of equipment used in recording audio. We'll look at that in a little bit detail when we look at the scenarios. So we're going to need to look at what equipment is needed for each scenario. You'll evaluate the equipment needed for each session, consider the types and number of microphones, stands and auxiliary equipment. Another thing that we need to cover is the organisational planning. Should include how you would communicate with each client and state why you chose this method. Let's have a little look at this before we go into scenarios. So if I just highlight that. Now, me working in my lovely little studio, what the thing that I do is people contact me in loads of different ways. They contact me in different ways. So somebody might meet me in a pub when I'm at a gig or whatever. They may email me direct from the form that I have on my website. They may ring me up, because I have my numbers all over. They may contact me over social media. What I try to do is whatever way that they contact me, I try to get it down to an email and deal with the most important person in the band. So I'm dealing with one person who's communicating on behalf of the band. The next thing that I do is I'll ask them if they have a group chat, whether it be on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or if they have another way going on. I try and steer clear of things like Snapchat or Instagram, because they don't allow you to file share as efficiently as Facebook Messenger or even a group email or a WhatsApp chat. So that the reason my method with email first is I can then go back to the email, keep the same email going, is, and if the band go, you didn't say that for the quote, you say, yeah, well I did, if you have a look back in the email. Always being nice about it. So the organisational planning of contacting the band is key there. The next thing that you need to make sure is you need to make sure that you've got the studio booked properly. Now, for working at college, go onto Canvas, have a look, see if the studio is free when you need it and your client needs it. Then you would email me, tell me if the people didn't go to college. I would need the name and a mobile contact number, just in case anything happens to them at college or anything. And we have a contact. They may have got lost in the building or something crazy mad like that, and we have a mobile number to get hold of them and say, "Are you all right?" Once you've got the building, once you've got the information all sorted, I can book the studio. The important things is knowing when the studio is available. So the studio's available to you through the day and up to about 8 o'clock on a weeknight, and between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock on a weekend. There's no point. If you book the studio outside of them times and tell the band that they're alright, you'll be in for a bit of a nasty surprise. The other thing you need to do is make sure that everybody involved in the session is aware of when the session's going to take part. So you need to check with the person who's looking after the band and make sure that they've got in touch with everybody in the band, or the main person who's in charge of the band or organising the band has made sure everybody's available for that day. The consequences of not doing that will be people may turn up to record and not really know what's kind of going on. The other thing that's really important is making sure that everybody's got their own equipment, or they're aware of the equipment that's available at college before you do the recording. So, communication, your different methods, why the planner needs to take part. Right, let's have a little look at these scenarios. So the first scenario is going to be a voiceover for a 30-second radio show trailer. You can do this anywhere. You can do this at home on a phone, on an iPhone. If you're the talent or the person that you're going to record, dead easy to do. To do it properly, though, it would be nice to have a DAW, and a DAW consists of your computer, laptop, whatever it may be, the audio recording software, and the audio interface to get the sound into the audio recording software. So you would have your DAW, you would need a mic stand, you would need an appropriate microphone, making a choice of whether you want to use a dynamic or a condenser, depending on what it is that you want to do. You probably need a pop shield. That'd basically do it. It's only going to be 30-second radio show trailer. Now, if you did this at college, the bonus of doing it at college is you're in a soundproof and also an acoustically treated environment. Number 2, an acoustic artist performing and singing live using stereo miking techniques. This needs to be done in a really good acoustic space, because that's what it's asking for. It's asking for performing and singing live using stereo miking techniques. Could even be on a gig and capture the sound of the audience. Think of the problems that you would encounter on a gig. You only get one shot at it. You can't ask them to go back and do it again. So it will be your choice of either recording on the gig or recording in the studio. You'd need a couple of microphones, your DAW set up. You would need to make sure that you can get at least 2 inputs in. So the Focusrite 2i2 would do for this. And the last recording is asking for a multi-track band recording using multiple sound sources and demonstrating overdubbing of additional instruments. A minimum of 12 tracks with the addition. So the third one will be a multi-track band recording using multiple sound sources and demonstrating overdubbing of additional instruments. Want a minimum of 12 tracks with the initial recording requiring 8 inputs. The 8 inputs are dead easy. One for a kick drum, one for a snare drum, 2 lots of overhead, a microphone on the guitar amplifier. You could have a microphone or a DI on the bass guitar, and you could have the lead vocal going into a separate channel. So that's 4 on the drum kit, 1 on the bass, 1 on the guitar, 1 on the vocal. You could also use another microphone to pick up the sound of the room and give you a nice kind of room ambience. Then you would be going in and laying tracks over the top. This is called overdubbing. What this allows you to do is to get a lot cleaner recording. So if you think you're going to record 8 microphones, you would need to pick the microphone that will be appropriate. The microphone kit that we use at college is the LD Systems drum set. That was reviewed in Sound on Sound. It's a good review. You would need 4 microphone stands for that and the appropriate 4 mic cables. Might be worthwhile doing a table for this one, so you could put everything into the table that you require. You could use a DI on the bass. The DI that we use at college is a Millennium DI. They're available from Thomann Audio in Germany. They're on the internet. Use an SM57 for picking up the electric guitar. And we could use either a dynamic mic, Shure SM58 would be ideal, or as we have at the college, the Samson, that's SAMSON C03 multi-pattern condenser mic. These are all quite cheap microphones, so you need all the ancillary equipment and things. So there will be the scenarios. Some of you may have already done some of these recordings, and you could tell us the main bits that are required with this. Now, the last scenario, task 2. So, task 2. Turn your attention to health and safety considerations for a record session. Include the 4 key areas of risk. Should include both technical and organisational planning for the session. So the 4 main risks are, in order of importance, is deafness. If you go deaf, you're not going to be able to record anymore. If you want to alleviate that risk, we can turn the volume down or limit your amount of exposure to it. So there's number 1. Number 2, well, they're all kind of equal, the last 3. So number 2 would be electric shocks. You should not be getting a fatal electric shock in any building, because they would have what's called an RCD, a residual current device, and that will be connected to the mains and stop you going skeleton bodied and dying. Number 3 will be slips, trips and falls. The easiest way to alleviate that will be making sure that you had taken precautions with keeping all your mic cables nice and tidy and things. And the last one would be heavy lifting. We wouldn't have a great deal of heavy lifting on the first scenario, but if you want to alleviate the problems with heavy lifting, make sure you get someone to give you the hand with the lifts. Are going to be the same for all 3 of them. And you can see at the bottom I've got like any additional risks, but the risks for scenario 1, slips, trips and falls, be the main one. You're not going to be near any loud sound. You're not going to be carrying any heavy equipment. Risks for scenario 2 is if this was taking place in a live venue, it could be the equipment getting drinks spilt into them. You'd need to make sure that you took an RCD to alleviate this, to make sure that it was safe. Keep all the wires, all the equipment taped down. Number 3, the band recording in the studio. Number 3, band recording in the studio. You need to make sure that everything was set up, everything was nice and tidy. That the only big heavy thing that you're going to move about is the bass amp. Somebody will give you a lift with that. The other thing that will be so the risks for scenario 3 really will be the bass amp. You need to be aware that you need a hand to lift that about if it's one of the big bass combos that we have at the college. Right, I've put down some of the additional risks. Additional risks here are a plan B for each of your recordings. Have you got an additional date in just in case the first one falls through and you need your plan B? Another thing that's really important is one of them is a USB stick. Make sure that you've got your session backed up. So it'll be at college, but you've also got it backed up so it doesn't go missing later on. Any hassles with this, email me at s.hoggett@embro.ac.uk, and that will be tremendous. Thank you very much, and good night.